We are answering questions from Vermonters. Let's see what we got. Best maple syrup. I love what we used to call grade B. I like it dark. I like it rich. We buy it in bulk. How often do you go back to Vermont? Great question. A lot of people need to know the answer to this. I fly home every weekend. I still live in Brattleboro. I've got 2 kids in high school there. And every third week or so, I come home to Vermont and stay for a week and travel around the state, visiting all the different corners of Vermont. And so I try to get home as frequently as I possibly can. Who is your best friend in Congress? Republican and Democrat. Okay. It's going to be tough because I've got some really close friends. So I'm going to have to name 2 of my closest because I don't want to offend anyone. Okay. So on the Democratic side, my buddy, Morgan McGarvey, who represents Louisville, is, he's something special. And he and his family and my family get along really well. And sometimes I call him my work husband because we just understand each other really, really well. And he's hilarious and he plays music. The other person, I would say, is Sharice Davids. She is a Democrat from Kansas, the only Democrat from Kansas, and she was one of the first Native American women elected to Congress. She's hilarious, and we hang out a lot, as well as her little dog, Peanut, who's 3-legged, which super fun. On the Republican side, I've gotten to know Republicans through playing on the bipartisan women's softball team. So I really enjoy hanging out with Lisa McClain. She's a terrific softball player. And there is also someone I met in my very first week of Congress, Monica De La Cruz. I met her really the very first week. And she's somebody that, I really appreciate. And again, we may not agree on most things, but we still find common ground. The other thing I would say is this really special thing happened the other day. I wouldn't necessarily say Jody Arrington, who is the chair of budget, is my best friend, but we have a very sweet relationship. So I filled in for our ranking member the other day, and he sent me this photograph the next day, and it says, "To my friend and new ranking member." He's trolling Brendan Boyle a little bit here, who is the ranking member. He's great to work with. Okay, what else have we got? When will we get daily mail reliably? This has been an issue that is so important to me and to Senator Sanders and Senator Welch. We hear about this a lot from communities across Vermont. We need to make a commitment at the federal level to continue to invest in U.S. mail. Because it's not just about getting mail. It's about getting prescription drugs. It's about making sure that seniors get, benefits that they receive through the mail. And I know it's very challenging for Vermonters when they're not able to get their mail to their home. They may not be able to travel and get to the post office to do that. And so I would say this routinely comes in the top 10 issues for Vermonters. And we know how important it is. We're continuing to pressure the Postmaster General DeJoy to make sure that we are investing in the post office. But what we need to do is rural communities across the nation, regardless of whether you live in a so-called red state or blue state, have your voices heard in Congress. And I know Vermont's doing its part, and I'm constantly reaching out to my colleagues across the aisle who are also having issues in their Republican districts, because we need to be loud and clear that this is non-negotiable. Do you have any pets? I do have a dog. His name is Wheelie. He's really incredible. He's a wonder dog. But we have a couple dogs that come in and out of this office here, which I'm really hoping to make office dogs. I love dogs so much. So it says, what is the most urgent thing that you're working on in Congress? In terms of the issues that I see as incredibly urgent for us to work on this Congress and next Congress, certainly making sure we codify reproductive rights. For me, making sure we pass a huge investment in housing. I am very focused on the mental health crisis and the crisis of loneliness across this country. And I know another issue that Vermonters care deeply about is climate change. And we have felt it most acutely in Vermont the last 2 summers with the flooding that we've experienced. And I know that this is coming for every congressional district. So again, this is another opportunity when I'm reaching across the aisle to find those partners, because it's not just coming for Democratic districts, it's coming for those districts that vote Republican, that we have to make sure that the programs that we have in place are really addressing this moment and the catastrophes that we get from natural disasters. So that is absolutely critical. And the one that sort of is the umbrella over all of these issues is the issue of, will we have a healthy democracy, and making sure that we pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to make sure every single person in this country who's eligible to vote is able to vote. And so this, again, is something I hear a lot from Vermonters. We do feel safe and secure with our Secretary of States and our town clerks. We have faith in our system of election in Vermont, and we want to make sure that's true for every single state. What's your favorite hike? Oh my gosh, so many. I would say there are so many mountains that I love to climb in Vermont, so many mountains I have climbed, but I have to say one of my favorite hikes is just one really close to home. I hike on the retreat trails in Brattleboro with my dog every chance that I get. And I hear incredible birds when I'm out there. Hermit thrushes and all kinds of woodpeckers. And most recently, I've been hearing more barred owls. And so it is not a hard hike, but it is very, very soothing. How is Vermont planning to better support public education? And this is from a teacher, and it says, we're really struggling. And I do hear that a lot from educators across Vermont. And there are many things that we need to do. We need to make sure that teachers across the country are making a livable wage, that they get the support that they need, the mental health supports in the classroom, making sure that we don't, for example, cut the Department of Education, which unfortunately some folks across the aisle are seriously considering through Project 2025. So we have to make sure that every single child is afforded the same opportunities regardless of zip code. And that starts with making sure public schools are fully funded and making sure that we as elected leaders are supporting the work that teachers are doing. What type of music do you listen to? I listen to all different kinds of music. I love Taylor Swift. I love Chappell Roan's music, but I also love to listen to some AC/DC, Brandi Carlile. Yeah, I love folk music. I play a lot of folk music on my guitar and mandolin. How can we increase housing density in places that really need it? It's such an important question. And of course, there are changes that we need to make within state law to make it more possible to build more densely in downtowns, making sure that we have the infrastructure necessary to do that. But we also, I believe in Vermont, we need to think about housing differently. And I think that we as Vermonters need to understand that if we don't build more housing, we're holding back our workforce, we're holding back our economy, but we're also not making it possible for people to really build better lives here, whether it's coming out of a mental health crisis or substance use disorder, that it's all connected. And I also think about our educational system. We want to have really strong public schools. We want to have more kids coming into our public school system. We need housing for those families to live in. So I think we need to talk about the values proposition that we make when we build more housing. Thanks everyone who submitted a question. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight into who I am and the job that I'm doing and what Congress is all about.